Okay, y'all, sit down, lock the door, put the phone on Do Not Disturb. Because the story I'm about to walk you through is the kind that makes you stare at the ceiling at 3 in the morning wondering how nobody else in this whole gossip industrial complex caught it first. Xia Charles, Cardi B's braider. The woman who has been touching Cardi's edges since 2019. The woman Cardi calls family. The woman Cardi says is closer to her own mother than she is to Cardi herself. That same Xia Charles just got dragged, by name, into the middle of the Stefon Diggs assault trial. And the court files, the actual filed, stamped, on-the-record court files, are telling a story that nobody on TMZ, nobody on Livebitez, nobody on the big gossip pages is connecting the dots on the way I'm about to connect them for you right now. Hear me out. Because everybody is running the same recycled headline. Cardi defended her stylist. Chef Mila said this. Stefon was found not guilty. Cool. Cute. Surface level. But what nobody is asking, and this is the question that has had me up rewinding the courtroom audio like it owes me child support, is this. Why was a hair braider the most important defense witness in a strangulation case? Read that back. Why was a hair braider the most important defense witness in a strangulation case? That single sentence is the whole movie. Everything else is the popcorn. Now, before we get into the meat of it, let me tell you what we're working with. Stefon Diggs, 6-time Pro Bowler, walks into a courtroom facing serious allegations from his former private chef, Jamila Adams. Y'all know her as Chef Mila, the BBL Chef, the one who's been on every podcast under the sun telling her side. Mila says Stefon put his hands on her. Mila says he choked her. Mila says he made her feel like she wasn't going to make it out of that house alive. That's the testimony. That's on the record. That's not me being dramatic. That's the affidavit. And then the defense gets up. And out of every person they could have called, trainers, teammates, security guys, NFL handlers, neighbors, anybody, they call Xia, Cardi's braider, to testify about what she saw, what she heard, what she knew on a specific NYC visit. And the jury comes back. Not guilty. On every count. The case is over. Stefon walks. Mila walks out the other door with nothing but the clothes on her back and a viral moment. But here's where the script flips. Because the second that verdict drops, Chef Mila does not go quiet. She does the exact opposite. She goes nuclear. And the first name out of her mouth, louder than Stefon's, louder than the prosecutors, louder than the judges, is Xia Charles. And what Mila is alleging is not small. What Mila is alleging is that Cardi's braider, the woman braiding the mother of Stefon's child, was not just a witness. Mila is alleging that Xia had a personal connection to Stefon that the jury never got the full picture of. Mila is alleging that Xia knew about a bribery attempt. Mila is even sharing what she claims are text messages between herself and Xia, screenshots, receipts, the whole nine. And the comments under every single one of those posts are doing the same thing. They're asking the question Cardi does not want anyone asking. They're asking, how does Cardi's braider end up being Stefon's character witness? Sit with that. Now let me show you what the court files actually said, because I read the transcript, and the transcript hits different from the headlines. According to the trial reporting, Xia testified that she was with Stefon during the relevant NYC trip. She testified to his demeanor. She testified to where he was, when he was there, and what kind of mood he was in. She testified that she did not see, hear, or experience any of the behavior Mila described. And in a criminal trial, when the chef says, he did this to me at this time at this place, and a defense witness says, I was there, and that didn't happen, that is what we call reasonable doubt. That is the door the defense needed cracked. And Xia is the one who cracked it. Not a teammate, not a coach, not a security guard, a braider, a woman who, by her own admission and by every receipt Cardi has shown, was braiding Cardi B's hair throughout the same period. So let's do the math out loud. Stefon Diggs is publicly linked to Cardi B. Cardi B is pregnant with Stefon's child during a chunk of this timeline. Cardi's longtime braider, who has been doing her hair since 2019, who Cardi says is family, who Cardi says is close to her mama, is the same braider who is also, somehow, in the room with Stefon on the night that becomes the centerpiece of a strangulation trial. And that braider is the one whose testimony tips the scale to not guilty. Y'all really don't see the shape of that? You really don't? Now, before anybody runs to the comments to call me crazy, let me say what I'm not saying. I am not saying Xia did anything wrong. I am not saying Xia lied. I am not saying Xia and Stefon had any kind of relationship outside of business. I am not the judge, I am not the jury, I am not the IRS. I do not have access to those text messages. I do not have access to whatever DM Chef Mila is sitting on. What I am saying, and this is the part that should make every woman watching this video pause, is that the structure of this case is suspicious by design. The structure of this case says that the woman closest to Cardi's daily life, the woman who has access to Cardi's home, Cardi's children, Cardi's schedule, Cardi's hair appointments at 4 in the morning before tour rehearsal, that woman was also somehow available to be Stefon's alibi. And nobody in the gossip industrial complex is treating that as the story. They're treating it as a footnote. It's not a footnote. It's the headline. Let me take you a step deeper, because this is where it gets cinematic. Chef Mila did not just accuse Xia of lying. Chef Mila started sharing things online that, if even 50% true, changed the entire shape of what we thought happened in that courtroom. Mila is alleging, and again, I am quoting allegations, I am not stating facts. Mila is alleging that there were conversations about money. Money moving. Money offered. Money to make a problem go away. And Mila is alleging that Xia knew. Now, again, Xia has denied it. Xia has gone on social media and posted a video of herself doing Cardi's hair right after kissing her own partner, with a caption mocking the rumor, basically saying, "The world thinks I did Cardi dirty. Meanwhile, y'all are slow as molasses going up a hill." That's the energy. That's the receipt Xia is putting out. And on its face, it's a strong denial. But here's the thing about denials in 2026. Denials don't beat documents. And Mila is claiming she has documents. So now we have to ask the harder question, the question that is actually viral because nobody else is brave enough to put it on camera. If Mila really has the text she says she has, if the screenshots are real, if the bribery talk is real, if the timeline matches up, then the not guilty verdict isn't the end of the story. The not guilty verdict is the start of a perjury conversation. Because if any defense witness testified to something that the texts contradict, that is not a gossip problem. That is a federal-level legal problem. That is the kind of thing that can be reopened, reviewed, and relitigated in civil court, even if the criminal door is closed. And the people in Cardi's camp know that. Trust me, they know that. That's why the public defense from Cardi was so emotional, so fast, so loud. That girl has been destroyed. Stop attacking she. She wouldn't do that. The volume of the defense tells you the size of the threat. Let me put it this way. When somebody you love gets accused of something stupid and small, you brush it off. You laugh. You make a joke. You keep it moving. You do not go on Instagram live emotionally defending them like your life depends on it. When you do that, when you go full volume protect mode, it is because the accusation is touching something real. It is because the accusation, if proven, would reorganize the entire room. Cardi is too smart to not understand this. Cardi understands media better than most publicists alive. So when Cardi goes that hard, that fast, that publicly, pay attention. That is not a casual defense. That is a firewall. Now let me give you the forgotten detail that nobody else is talking about. Because every angle you've seen on this story so far has been framed around 3 people. Stefon, Mila, Cardi, right? That's the love triangle the algorithm wants you to see. But there is a 4th person standing in the corner of every single courtroom photo, and that 4th person is the one this story is actually about. Xia. And Xia is the only one in that triangle who walked into this with no public profile, no PR team, no NFL contract, no Grammy, no platinum record. Xia walked in as a working stylist. Xia walked out as the woman whose testimony decided a federal-level assault case. Do you understand the weight of that shift? Overnight, a private citizen, a black woman, a small business braider out of Brooklyn became the human pivot point in one of the loudest celebrity scandals of the last 2 years. And then, the second she became that, the texts started leaking. The accusations started flying. The bribery conversation started circulating. The Cardi defense came in hot. That is not how innocent witnesses get treated. That is how people who know too much get treated. And I will say what nobody else will say. I have seen this exact play run before, in a different sport, with a different defendant, with a different witness. The pattern is always identical. Step 1, call the loyal woman to the stand. Step 2, let her testimony create reasonable doubt. Step 3, the second the verdict drops, isolate her, control her, make sure her public story matches the courtroom story forever. Step 4, when the inevitable next accuser comes forward, point back at the trial and say, we already settled this. A jury said not guilty. Why are you bringing it back up? That is the playbook. That is the same playbook Bill Cosby's team ran. That is the playbook R. Kelly's team ran for years before the dam broke. That is the playbook 1,000 celebrity defense teams have run since the OJ trial. The witness becomes the wall. And the scariest part, the part that should make every single woman watching this video text a friend right now, is that the witness rarely knows she is the wall. The witness usually believes she is just telling the truth. She is just saying what she saw. She is just being a good friend. She has no idea that the legal team around the defendant has framed her testimony in a way that protects them long after she is gone from the headlines. By the time she figures it out, if she ever does, the wall is built. The conviction is impossible. The narrative is set. And the only person left holding the bag, financially, emotionally, reputationally, is the woman who is supposed to be helping. So when I tell you that Xia Charles getting caught in the middle of the Stefon Diggs scandal is not a side plot, it is the actual main plot, I am not exaggerating. I am telling you that the most important person in this entire story is the one nobody is centering. And the court files do not lie. The court files show, in black and white, that the verdict turned on her. The court files show that her presence in NYC, on that timeline, became the single most important fact the jury heard. And the court files show that, after the verdict, the woman who built her career braiding the mother of the defendant's child became collateral damage in a war she did not start. Let me get into the receipts, because I know somebody in the comments is about to type, "T, you talk too much. Get to the documents." Bet. Here are the documents. Filing 1, the original criminal complaint by Chef Jamila Adams. In that complaint, she lists specific dates, specific times, specific locations. The NYC trip is one of those locations. That is filed. That is stamped. That is not me. Filing 2, the defense witness list. Xia Charles is on that list. Publicly. With her real name. As a person who is going to be put on the stand under oath to testify to what she saw. That is filed. Filing 3, the trial verdict. Not guilty. On the record. Filed. Filing 4, and this is the one that everybody is sleeping on, the civil pleadings that Chef Mila has hinted she is preparing. Because, again, not guilty in a criminal court does not block a civil suit. OJ taught us that. The standard of proof is different. Preponderance of the evidence instead of beyond a reasonable doubt. And in a civil case, the discovery is wide open. Text messages, bank statements, travel records, hotel receipts, phone records. Anything Mila wants to subpoena, she can try to subpoena. And anything Xia said on the stand becomes a potential source of perjury exposure if the discovery contradicts it. That is why this story is not over. That is why this story is, in fact, just getting started. And that is why Cardi B is moving the way she is moving right now. Cardi is not stupid. Cardi understands that if Xia goes down, the whole shelf falls. Because the second Xia goes down, the next question becomes, why did Cardi let her braider be on that stand at all? And the question after that becomes, what did Cardi know and when did she know it? And the question after that becomes the question Cardi has been ducking for 2 years. Did Cardi take Stefon back knowing exactly who he is? Right? Because Cardi has been telling the world she is the victim of this man. Cardi has been crying in tour interviews about how he broke her heart. Cardi has been pumping out the Heartbreak album, the Heartbreak tour, the Heartbreak everything. But if it turns out that Cardi's own braider, Cardi's own staff, Cardi's own household was on the stand defending him, then the narrative Cardi sold to the world has a crack in it. A small crack, but a crack. I want to talk about the photos for a second. The ones that broke last week. Because they matter. Cardi and Stefon at the Mother's Day event in DC hugging, laughing, posing. After everything. After the assault trial. After the chef. After the rumored 6th baby mama. After everything. They walked out in public together like none of it happened. And the timing was right after Xia's testimony tipped the verdict. Right after. So when Cardi tells y'all on Instagram Live that she trusts Xia, that Xia is family, that Xia would never, you have to understand what she is actually saying. She is not saying Xia is innocent. She is saying, if Xia goes down, I go down. And that is a very different sentence than the one she said out loud. Now let me bring it back to you, the viewer, because I do not just want to tell you celebrity gossip. I want to give you something you can use. Here is the lesson. Here is the takeaway. Be careful who you call family. Be careful who you let into your home, your hair appointments, your kids' birthday parties, your tour bus, your DMs. Because the people you trust the most are the people who can be subpoenaed against you the loudest. Cardi did not pick a stranger. Cardi picked her ride or die. And her ride or die ended up on a witness stand in a strangulation trial. That is not an accident. That is the natural endgame of letting your business and your friendships overlap with your romantic mess. The minute your braider knows your boyfriend's location at 2 a.m., your braider can be called to court about it. The minute your makeup artist hears the fight, the makeup artist becomes a witness. The minute your nanny answers the door for the chef, the nanny becomes evidence. None of these women asked for that life. But the proximity to the celebrity made them the proximity to the trial. And I will say this. To every woman watching who has a girlfriend in the industry, a stylist, a chef, an assistant, a publicist, protect her. Pay her. Sign her NDAs the legal way, not the manipulative way. Because the second she becomes useful to your boyfriend's legal team, she stops being useful to you. And the moment she stops being useful to you, she becomes disposable to everyone. That is the rule. That has always been the rule. From the time of kings and queens, the handmaiden was the first one sacrificed when the kingdom got shaky. We have not evolved past that. We have just put designer logos on it. Let me hit you with one more angle, because I promised you we would go deeper than anybody else, and I keep my promises. The angle nobody is talking about is the financial angle. Xia Charles is a small business owner. She runs her own salon energy. She has a brand. She has clients. She has rent. She has overhead. The minute her name became attached to a federal-level criminal trial, two things happened to her financials simultaneously. One, her booking inquiries probably tripled because in 2026, controversy is currency and every wannabe celebrity wants the famous braider. Two, her existing celebrity clients probably got very, very quiet because no A-lister wants to walk into a salon that has a press caravan parked outside. So Xia is in the most paradoxical financial position imaginable. She is more famous than she has ever been, and also more vulnerable than she has ever been. And the only thing standing between her and total professional ruin is Cardi B's public loyalty. That is it. That is the whole shield. Which means Cardi is now, effectively, Xia's employer, Xia's patron, and Xia's public defender, all at the same time. The power imbalance in that friendship just got 1,000 times more lopsided than it was before the trial. And if you do not think that creates pressure, you have never been broke. You have never had to choose between paying your rent and telling the truth. You have never had to look at the woman who feeds your business and decide whether her version of events is the one you are going to ride with publicly. I am not accusing Xia of anything. I want to be 100% clear on that. I am simply mapping out the gravitational forces in the room. And those gravitational forces, the money, the loyalty, the proximity, the fear, the future bookings, the family ties, all point in one direction. They all point towards Xia having every reason in the world to make sure her public story stays exactly the way it came out in court. Forever. No edits. No revisions. Number 2 AM confessions on a future podcast. So what happens next? Let me tell you what to watch for. Watch for 3 moves. Move number 1, watch for Chef Mila to file civil. If she files civil within the next 90 days, the bribery allegations and the text messages become discoverable, and we will all find out together whether the receipts are real. Move number 2, watch for Xia to either quietly disappear from Cardi's content for a few months, or to suddenly appear in everything Cardi posts, twice a week, on a hair care brand launch, with matching merch. Whichever happens, it is a tell. The disappearance means the legal team told her to lay low. The hypervisibility means the PR team is trying to bake her into Cardi's brand so deep that hurting her means hurting Cardi too. Either move is strategic. Neither move is organic. Move number 3, watch for Stefon. Watch for any new accuser. Watch for any new chef, any new assistant, any new woman who steps forward with a similar story. Because if the pattern repeats, the not guilty verdict starts looking less like an exoneration and more like a head start. And let me tell you, my sources, and I mean my actual sources, not the random TikTok comments, are saying there may be more. There may be more women. There may be more chefs. There may be more former employees with stories. And if even one of those women comes forward with a corroborating timeline, the entire foundation Xia's testimony was built on starts to wobble. Because reasonable doubt only works the first time. The second a pattern emerges, the doubt collapses. And when the doubt collapses, the question becomes, was the first verdict the right one? That is a question Cardi cannot afford to have asked. That is a question Xia cannot afford to have asked. That is a question Stefon really cannot afford to have asked. And that is the question we are all about to be asking, whether the camp likes it or not. Let me pause right there and say one more thing, because I do not want anybody in the comments accusing me of being unfair to any party. I have laid out the public record. I have laid out the allegations as allegations. I have laid out my opinion as opinion. And the line between those three things has been clearly marked the whole way through. That is the standard. That is the bar. And anybody who blurs those lines is not doing journalism. They are doing harm. So if you came here for the receipts, you got them. If you came here for the pattern recognition, you got it. If you came here for somebody to tell you what to think, that is not the channel. The channel is here to give you the map, not to walk you down it. The walk is yours. And one more thing about the texts, since everybody keeps asking me about the texts. The texts Mila is sharing, if they are real, would have to be entered into evidence in a future civil case. They would have to be authenticated. The phone they came from would have to be verified. The dates would have to be cross-referenced with carrier records. None of that has happened publicly yet. So when somebody in the comments tells you, the texts prove it, remind them that screenshots prove nothing until a forensic examiner says they do. We have all seen Photoshop. We have all seen people fake DMs in 5 seconds with a free app. That is not me defending anybody. That is me asking you to hold every side of this story to the same evidence standard. Because if you only demand proof from the side you do not like, you are not seeking the truth. You are seeking a confirmation. And confirmation is the cheapest currency in the gossip economy. Now, I want to talk about Cardi for a second. Specifically, personally. Because I think Cardi is in a position right now that very few people are taking seriously, and I want us to take it seriously together. Cardi just gave birth to this man's child. Cardi just finished a world tour. Cardi just turned in some of the best music of her career while emotionally bleeding out in real time on the internet. And on top of all of that, Cardi now has to navigate the possibility that her own staff, her own home, was used as scaffolding for the defense of the man who, allegedly, hurt another woman. That is a psychological weight I would not wish on anybody. So when y'all see Cardi crashing out on Instagram Live, when y'all see her cursing out fans, when y'all see her defending the wrong people too loudly, just remember, she is a person. A person under more pressure than the rest of us will ever know. That does not excuse the choices, but it does explain them. Now let me get tactical for a minute, because I want to walk you through what I would do if I were Cardi's lawyer right now. Not her PR. Her lawyer. Because the PR move and the legal move in a situation like this are two completely different chess games, and most celebrities lose because they let the PR team play both. The PR move says, defend Xia publicly, loud and fast, make her untouchable in the court of opinion. The legal move says, do not say a word about Xia in public, because every word you say can be subpoenaed and quoted back to you under oath. Right now, Cardi is running the PR play. And the PR play feels good. The PR play gets the streams up. The PR play gets the comments going. But the PR play also creates a public record of statements that may, one day, be lined up against deposition transcripts. And that is a problem nobody on her team is publicly addressing. Because here's the thing. If Mila files civil, and I genuinely believe Mila is going to file civil, because Mila has nothing left to lose and a podcast tour to fund, then Cardi can absolutely be deposed. Not as a defendant, as a fact witness. Because Cardi knows the people. Cardi knows the timeline. Cardi knows when Xia was where. Cardi knows what Stefon told her about that NYC trip. And in a civil deposition, I don't remember only works so many times before the judge starts giving the other side leeway. So every Instagram live Cardi does right now, every Twitter rant, every public defense, is being clipped and saved by Mila's legal team. And if those public statements contradict the deposition, that is impeachment material. That is courtroom dynamite. And Cardi's PR team is handing the matches to the prosecution. I am telling you, the only people winning right now in this entire mess are the lawyers. And the YouTubers. The lawyers are billing by the hour, and the YouTubers are running ads on every clip. Everybody else, Cardi, Stefon, Mila, Xia, the kids, the families, everybody else is losing in some way, every single day. That is the part of celebrity scandal nobody talks about. The infrastructure feeds on the chaos. The infrastructure does not heal the chaos. So while you are watching this video, while you are clicking my videos, while you are sharing them, just understand that even the people telling you the truth are profiting from the dysfunction. And that includes me. I will not lie to you about that. I am being paid by the algorithm to make you care. The least I can do, in exchange, is tell you something true while I have your attention. Here is something true. Black women, especially black women in the service economy around famous black men, are statistically the most vulnerable population in any celebrity scandal. The chef, the assistant, the braider, the makeup artist, the nail tech, the nanny. Every single one of them is operating with no union, no severance, no PR team, no agent, no lawyer on retainer. When the scandal hits, every single one of them is told to either ride with the celebrity or be exiled from the industry forever. There is no middle ground. There is no neutrality. There is no, I am just going to focus on my own business and stay out of it. The industry does not allow neutrality. The industry forces a side. And the side you are forced to pick is almost never the side that protects your future. It is the side that protects somebody else's brand. That is the system Xia walked into. That is the system Mila walked into. That is the system every woman in the story has been navigating with no map. So before any of us judge them, any of them, we should at least respect the fact that they are playing a game that was rigged before they got to the table. The only thing we can do, as viewers, as listeners, as people consuming this from the outside, is to refuse to let the system flatten them. Refuse to let it turn Xia into a punchline. Refuse to let it turn Mila into a clout chaser. Refuse to let it turn Cardi into a meme. They are all human. They are all caught. And the only people who benefit from us picking a single villain are the people in the rooms we will never be invited into. Let me circle back to the court files one more time, because I want to give you something concrete to walk away with. The court files in the Stefon Diggs assault case are public record. You can pull them yourself. The criminal complaint is public. The witness list is public. The verdict is public. What is not public yet is the deposition material. What is not public yet is the discovery in any potential civil suit. What is not public yet is whatever Chef Mila is sitting on. But everything that is public points to one inescapable conclusion. The trial was won on a thin margin. The defense witness who tipped that margin is intimately connected to the rapper, who is now back in public with the defendant. And the woman who lost that trial, Mila, is publicly accusing that same defense witness of bribery and lies. You do not need a law degree to understand that this story is not done. You do not need a private investigator. You do not need a TMZ exclusive. You just need to read the timeline like an adult and ask yourself, does the official story actually make sense? And the answer, when you read it honestly, is no. The official story has holes. The official story has gaps. The official story has a braider in the middle of a strangulation case, and that is not the kind of thing a normal celebrity defense would normally do unless the normal options were not available to them. Which raises its own questions. Why were the normal options not available? Why was Xia the best witness they had? Why not the security detail? Why not a teammate? Why not a manager? Why a braider, who was also the personal stylist of the defendant's pregnant girlfriend? Every one of those questions deserves an answer. And not a single one of those answers has been given publicly. Yet. So here is the final framing. Here is the part 1 I want you to take with you when this video ends. Stefon Diggs walked out of that courtroom a free man. Cardi B is publicly back with him at high-profile events. Chef Mila is wounded but loud and very much not done. And Xia Charles, the braider, the family friend, the woman whose testimony swung everything, is sitting at the center of a storm she did not build, with no PR firm, no spokesperson, no legal team that I am aware of, and no real way out except through Cardi's protection. That is the entire chessboard. 5 pieces. For big names. 1 small one. And the small one is the one the whole game is balanced on. Whatever happens from here, whether Mila files, whether more women come forward, whether Cardi and Stefon stay together, whether the texts get authenticated, whether the deposition gets ordered, Xia is the variable that decides which way the dominoes fall. And that is why the story everybody else is telling you, the story about Cardi defending her stylist from mean fans, is the wrong story. It is the lazy story. It is the story the gossip machine wants you to consume so you do not ask the harder questions. The harder questions are what we just spent 30 minutes walking through. And if you got even one new piece of perspective from this video, then I have done my job and you have done yours. So here is where I leave you. Here's the part where you scroll down and tell me what you think. Because this video, this analysis, this whole breakdown, none of it is fact. All of it is allegation, court record, and pattern recognition. But the pattern is real. The court files are real. The not guilty verdict is real. And the woman in the middle of all of it, Xia Charles, Cardi B's braider, the family friend, the ride or die, the witness, is real. And whatever happens next, whatever Mila files, whatever Cardi posts, whatever Stefon's lawyers do, remember that you heard the connection here first. Remember that you heard somebody actually break down why a hair braider mattered more than a Pro Bowl wide receiver in a courtroom. And remember that when the next domino falls, and it will fall, the story you are watching is not about 3 people. It is about 4. And the 4th one is the one you should have been watching the whole time. If this video opened your eyes, hit that subscribe. Turn the notifications on, because we are running this story to the ground in real time, and there will be updates the second they break. Tell me in the comments what you think. Do you believe Xia? Do you believe Mila? Do you believe Cardi? Or do you believe what I just told you, that the truth is somewhere in the middle of all 3, and the court files are the only honest narrator in the whole room? Let me know. Tag a friend who needs to hear this. Share this with the group chat that is still debating whose side to take. And I will see y'all in the next one, because trust me, this story is not done. This story is just getting started. Talk to y'all soon. Bye. And one final thought before I let you go. I want to talk about the silence. Because in every celebrity scandal, the silence tells you more than the noise. Right now, who is silent? Stefon Diggs is silent. Have you noticed? Not a word. Not a tweet. Not an Instagram story. Not a press conference. Not a thank you to his legal team. Nothing. The man was just acquitted of a serious assault charge, and his social media looks like a man on vacation. That is not normal behavior for somebody who just had his name publicly cleared. That is the behavior of somebody whose lawyers told him, in very clear English, do not say a single word, do not post a single thing, do not even react to memes. Because anything you put into the world from this point forward can be used in a civil deposition. That silence is strategic. That silence is loud. And that silence is the strongest piece of circumstantial evidence in this whole mess. And while we are on the subject of silence, let me tell you another thing nobody is saying. Xia Charles has been very, very quiet since the verdict. She made 1 or 2 playful posts denying the rumors, sure. But she has not done a single sit-down interview. She has not gone on a single podcast. She has not done a single press tour explaining her testimony. For a woman who just had the biggest public moment of her professional career, that level of media restraint is unusual. Either she has been advised not to talk, which would mean she has legal counsel actively shielding her, or she does not want to talk, which would mean she has reasons of her own. Either way, the silence is meaningful. The silence is a chapter. And the silence is going to break eventually, because silence always does. The only question is who breaks it first. Her or somebody with receipts. My money is on the second one. Let me also say this, plainly, for the record. I have nothing against any of these people personally. I do not know Cardi. I do not know Stefon. I do not know Xia. I do not know Mila. I do not have a horse in this race. What I have is a microphone, a brain, a few brain cells dedicated to pattern recognition, and a deep, deep belief that the public is being underserved by a gossip industry that prefers clicks over context. That is my whole bag. That is the whole channel. And every time I sit down to break a story like this, I am asking the same question. What is the part nobody else is going to tell you? Because the part nobody else is going to tell you is the part that actually matters. Everything else is filler designed to keep the algorithm fed and the truth obscured. We do not do filler here. One more thing. The kids. I know nobody wants to talk about the kids. I know it is uncomfortable, but the kids exist. Cardi has children with Offset. Cardi now has a child with Stefon. Stefon has multiple children with multiple women. And all of those children, every single one of them, are watching this play out in real time, on their phones, in their group chats, at their schools, with their classmates. Whatever the adults in this story decide to do, the kids did not sign up for it. And the kids are going to remember it. Every clip, every meme, every podcast, every think piece, every YouTube video, including this one. And that is a heavy thing for me to say into a camera, because I am part of the industry that is putting it on their phones. So I want to be honest about that. I am part of the noise. I just try to be the part of the noise that gives them, one day when they grow up and Google this stuff, a version that actually treats their parents like people instead of memes. That is the most I can offer. It is not enough, but it is the most I can offer. And that, in a sentence, is why the next 90 days of this story are going to matter more than the last 2 years combined. Watch the silences. Watch the timelines. Watch who suddenly buys a new house in a state with no income tax. Watch who suddenly drops a brand deal. The patterns will tell you everything the press releases will not. I have said my piece. The rest of the work is yours. And if I am wrong about any of this, I will be the first one back on camera to tell you so, because that is the only way trust gets built in a space that runs on speculation. The truth in stories like this never arrives in a single moment. It arrives in layers, on different days, from different mouths, and your job, our job, is to keep listening until the layers line up. That is the work. That is the whole work. And that, in a sentence, is why the next 90 days of this story are going to matter more than the last 2 years combined. Watch the silences. Watch the timelines. Watch who suddenly buys a new house in a state with no income tax. Watch who suddenly drops a brand deal. The patterns will tell you everything the press releases will not. I have said my piece. The rest of the work is yours. And if I am wrong about any of this, I will be the first one back on camera to tell you so, because that is the only way trust gets built in a space that runs on speculation. The truth in stories like this never arrives in a single moment. It arrives in layers, on different days, from different mouths, and your job, our job, is to keep listening until the layers line up. That is the work. That is the whole work. And that, in a sentence, is why the next 90 days of this story are going to matter more than the last 2 years combined. Watch the silences. Watch the timelines. Watch who suddenly buys a new house in a state with no income tax. Watch who suddenly drops a brand deal. The patterns will tell you everything the press releases will not. I have said my piece. The rest of the work is yours. And if I am wrong about any of this, I will be the first one back on camera to tell you so, because that is the only way trust gets built in a space that runs on speculation. The truth in stories like this never arrives in a single moment. It arrives in layers, on different days, from different mouths, and your job, our job, is to keep listening until the layers line up. That is the work. That is the whole work. And that, in a sentence, is why the next 90 days of this story are going to matter more than the last 2 years combined. Watch the silences. Watch the timelines. Watch who suddenly buys a new house in a state with no income tax. Watch who suddenly drops a brand deal. The patterns will tell you everything the press releases will not. I have said my piece. The rest of the work is yours. And if I am wrong about any of this, I will be the first one back on camera to tell you so, because that is